Hello again, everyone. My name is Martin MacDonald, and I am the new music director of the Cathedral Bluffs Symphony Orchestra, your Cathedral Bluffs Symphony Orchestra. And we're so pleased to be coming back to the stage of the Chinese Cultural Center of Greater Toronto this Saturday on May 28th, 8 p.m. for a concert of some truly spectacular pieces of music, great works of the repertoire for you to enjoy and for us to perform for you. And we're so excited to have you back in our audience, and we're so excited to be back on stage yet again this season. This program sort of came about due to a few different things. We had the cancellation of our February program due to the January lockdown, which caused us to shuffle things around a little bit in terms of our programming. And what it gave us was a real terrific opportunity to bring in another soloist to our season, and also for us to be able to perform for you the Schumann Spring Symphony that we had originally planned for early February. So we were so excited that we were able to rework things and get it back into the schedule so that we had a chance to perform that for you. And along with the Schumann Symphony, we have the beautiful Voices of Spring by Johann Strauss II, and the thrilling and dazzling second piano concerto of Rachmaninoff with the truly wonderful soloist, well known to all of us, Stanford Chung, who is currently completing his doctorate at McGill University. Incidentally, that's where I went and did my graduate work. That's where I did my master's degree, and we actually have a couple of professors in common, even though mine was way back many years ago, and he is just finishing up there now. So let's talk about the pieces a little bit that we're going to play for you. We open the program with Voices of Spring, Frühlingsstimme, the Opus 410, Voices of Spring by Johann Strauss II. Now, this is a wonderful, wonderful waltz. All the Strausses were so well known for their waltzes and their polkas and their marches and their dances. This is where they excelled. Beautiful lyrical writing, wonderful inventive little turns of phrase and different harmonies. And this is one of those really fun pieces of music, originally written as a song for coloratura soprano and orchestra in 1882, and then sort of reworked as a piece for just orchestra, and it became quite popular around 1886. He had taken it on tour, and it had really taken off then. Now, part of the original poem from this piece, from this waltz, from the words of it, was "Spring awakens in all its splendor." And what a great way to open a concert in the close to the end of May. We're right in the depths of spring. Summer's coming on soon, but it's certainly bright and cheerful. It's very fresh, very pastoral. You'll hear some little bird songs, and that, like I said, that real arrival of spring. And there's lots of changes and variation within, pensive moments, etc. Really just a wonderful example of the Strauss's ability to just lift you up with a wonderful waltz and put a smile on your face. And we figured that was a really wonderful way for us to open up this concert, especially a concert that will feature next on the program, the Spring Symphony of Robert Schumann. Now, while Voices of Spring was composed in 1882, the Spring Symphony was composed in 1841, so some 41 years earlier. Now, originally he had titles on all of these movements. Four-movement form, as is a standard symphony. Schumann was firmly planted into the Romantic era. Beethoven was the bridge the gap from the classical period to the Romantic period, and Schumann was feet placed very firmly in the Romantic period. But he had put titles on these movements. And the first movement was titled Awakening of Spring. The second movement was titled Evening. The third movement was titled Merry Playmates. And then Spring's Fullness was the title for the fourth movement. Now, just before publication, Schumann had removed the movement titles. And, I believe it was mainly due to the fact that Schumann, like Beethoven and his Pastoral Symphony, Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony number 6, Schumann wanted his Spring Symphony to be more about a feeling of spring, rather than being a very direct program of spring or a programmatic element. And program music is generally music that follows a specific story and has a specific arc within the story that works within the narrative. He didn't want it to be program music. He wanted it to be more absolute. We call that absolute music. And so he removed the titles. But the music itself, of course, remains. Now, this first movement, it just summons spring to life. It's very fresh with an opening brass fanfare, but it quickly goes dark. Because remember, to get to spring, we have to go through winter. And it was in the dead of winter in 1841 when Schumann composed this in January and February. So you can imagine that he was kind of, wanted to build up to spring a little bit more before we get right into the exposition, the main theme of the movement. Now, once we get there, it's very sprightly, it's very energetic, lots of wonderful themes and melodies that are sort of passed, and rhythms that are passed all around the orchestra with little solos here and there. And you really feel that hustle and bustle of springtime, especially with a very thrilling accelerando. And an accelerando is where you speed up and get faster and faster and faster. And we have this thrilling accelerando racing towards the end of the movement. And it's really sort of brings lots of life to the stage, which is what we hope to do, which is what we aim to do. The second movement, like I said, was originally entitled Evening. It's very soft. It's very quiet. It's very lyrical. It's like a romantic song that gets passed around from section to section, instrument to instrument, and sort of gives you this very evocative, very calm, very peaceful sort of evening time feel, as if you were sitting outside on a beautiful May night, listening to all the sounds and sort of reveling in the beauty of your surroundings. The third movement is a very playful yet minor sort of demonic sounding scherzo. It's sort of fiendish. And in its title, of course, its original title was Merry Playmate. So it's got that playful sort of like this fiendish character to it. And it's a wonderful scherzo, and a sort of a slightly unusual scherzo where it has two trio sections. And it's kind of a little unusual in form, but it's very interestingly set up from the second movement. We play the second movement to the third movement almost like a tocca, which means we play almost right away without a break. And the end of the second movement, you'll hear this trombone chorale, a three-part trombone chorale that actually introduces the new theme of the third movement at the end of the second movement. And Schumann did this a lot. He would wait to the end of a movement just to introduce brand new material, which no other composers were really doing that much of. So this wonderful scherzo movement that's kind of gives you that sort of devilish character, like two imps running around and playing tricks on one another. So it's got that sort of feel to it. And then our last movement of this symphony is very robust and joyous conclusion with, again, lots of rhythm, lots of tunes, lots of wonderful solos, a flute cadenza right in the middle of the movement, which was very unusual at the time in terms of the form and the overall structure, but a beautiful flute cadenza that is accompanied by the horns. And then again, like the first movement, we have this thrilling accelerando. We get faster and faster and faster until this race to the end. And it sort of brings forth all these notions of energy and brightness and beauty and the joys of spring and all that it has to offer us. Now, after the intermission, we're going to do things different. We're going to start the concert with the waltz and the symphony, and then after the intermission, we're going to play the piano concerto. We're going to swap it because we feel that the ending of the Rachmaninoff concerto is incredible. And it's a really incredible concerto in and itself. And as I said before about Stanford, we're so thrilled to have him with us. He's a beautiful pianist. We had a rehearsal with him earlier this week, and we're just blown away by his playing. So virtuosic, and so technically brilliant, so musically innate. It's just really beautiful playing, and you're in for such a treat on Saturday night. Now, Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto has had its premiere in 1901, and it's arguably one of the most famous concertos in the repertoire, with some of the most memorable and recognizable music in it, especially the clarinet tune in that second movement, which is absolutely stunning and stunningly played by our principal clarinet, Elizabeth. Now, he had used material from several previous years of sketches and finally got around to this premiere in 1901. And you really sense right from the beginning the effortlessness of the unfolding of this concerto. You have this rich, expansive sound with so much harmonic tension, but it constantly sort of ripples out and unfolds and hangs and glides in all the different harmonies and how the tunes, how they sort of glide into one another. The second movement, like I was saying before about the clarinet solo, and then taken on as solos by the piano and by the strings and other instruments around the orchestra. It's just a beautiful, beautiful lyrical music. So poignant and so romantic, utterly romantic writing. That was certainly Rachmaninoff's great forte. And in every sense of the word, iconic. And then we have in the third movement this robust, almost march-like, this resolute tour de force for the piano and orchestra. And, you know, what's wonderful about this piece is how Rachmaninoff treated the piano as not only as soloist, but as accompanist as well. Oftentimes, he would accompany the piano accompanies different sections of the orchestra as they take the tune, and then the piano sort of accompanies along, and then the piano takes over, and then the orchestra takes over, and there's all sorts of this interplay, and it's wonderfully woven together. It's just a magnificent piece of music with a magnificent soloist, and we are just delighted to get to present all of these for you on May 28th, Saturday night, Chinese Cultural Center of Greater Toronto at 8 p.m. And I should mention, before I go, that we have one more concert this season. Thankfully, we were able to take that canceled program and get things moved around, and we were able to put one more concert into the season. That is going to be on Sunday, June 26th. It's an odd day from our usual schedule, a Sunday instead of a Saturday, but Sunday, June 26th at 8 p.m. will be our last concert of the season, and that will be a folk-inspired concert with some Hungarian dances by Brahms, Finlandia by Sibelius. We have a wonderful Canadian piece of music by Robert Rival entitled The Northwest Passage Variations, based on the wonderful Canadian song Northwest Passage by Stan Rogers. And then we finish the season in epic style with the mighty and the grand Dvorak Symphony No. 8. It's a very exciting program. So don't forget about June 26th, our last program of the season, but we definitely hope to see you this Saturday, May 28th at 8 p.m. on stage at the Chinese Cultural Center of Greater Toronto. Thank you so much, and we'll see you there. Please tell me I taped all